everyone, it's Shreve here with a look at the stock market for Thursday, April 27th, where we saw stocks surge fueled by earnings from Meta. Ken.
Yes, indeed. Lots of good action. Breadth improved a little bit, but let's take a look at three stocks today. Pretty good earnings report, not only from Meta Platforms, but Mastercard. So MA is the symbol there. Also take a look at Boyd Gaming, BYD, which benefited from strong earnings from Churchill Downs, and finally, building stocks, we continue to talk about them. So let's take a look at IBP ahead of earnings next week. Two stocks in its group reported really strong earnings today. So installed building products, IBP.
All right, we'll do that. But first, let's take a look at the major indexes. The Nasdaq today up a strong 2.4% to lead the gains, followed by the Dow up 1.6%. Actually, the S&P 500 was up 2%. Then the Dow up 1.6%. The Russell 2000 up some 1.2%. So, Ken, we've talked about how tricky the market has been. A couple of days ago, we did see a break below a sideways area, and not all too inspiring close yesterday when we had strong earnings from Microsoft, but we were saying, hey, you never know what Meta's going to report, and it looks like right now we did see a shakeout earlier this week, but can the upward momentum continue is the question.
Well, it's looking at the Nasdaq Composite here. It's obviously a bullish technical move. I mean, you get a retaking of the 12,000 level with conviction. It's back above all of short-term moving averages. It was a close at or near session highs. Looking at the volume, you can see came in pretty close to what we saw yesterday. If we had seen a nice big blue volume spike here with volume, much higher than the prior session, would have been better to see. So it just still seemed like a kind of a lack of conviction behind the buying today, but you can't knock a big percentage gain like the Nasdaq flashed today, and obviously bullish performance for Meta. We've got Amazon after the close, so pretty strong performance. Not sure it's going to result in a change in outlook from us, but we'll have to read the big picture tonight. And but good day to have a 401k owning a lot of mutual funds with big tech stocks in it.
Yeah, exactly. And many team members on the IBD crew have said, while we may not see a new test of the lows, we could see a lot of chop and a lot of sideways action here. But it seems like underneath the surface, we've talked about how growth is weak for the most part. What was I going to say? How breadth is poor. So outside of growth, just a lot of stocks not participating. It does seem like a very concentrated market rally. So in terms of how investors should harness that information, it seems like to me, we got to be very selective. And even if we are selective, trades are a lot of times not really working. So it seems like maybe trade the index or trade some of these mega cap tech stocks that are working and are showing that leadership potential, and not getting too heavy until we start seeing more participation.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty impressive performance for the Nasdaq because it had a lot of semiconductor stocks that were under very heavy selling pressure today, not only because of a weak earnings report from Impinj, but it was just a kind of and this semiconductor ETF isn't exactly a picture of technical health. So the Nasdaq's gains were impressive, even though a lot of semiconductor stocks, sat the rally out. But yeah, your point is a good one. Leaderboard is only about 50% invested at this point. And again, if this market rally is going to gain traction, we're gonna go up against that 12,227 high possibly after a big gain today. And the question is that going to be a resistance level? So it could see more chop here. I think I don't know that I'm going to get really bullish after a day like today, but certainly am going to respect the strength today and continue to look for setups that are still in relatively short supply here.
Exactly. Yeah. And speaking of leaderboard, who are the two biggest contributors of gains over the last 2 months? In my view, Meta And
Meta
NVIDIA.
and NVIDIA. Yep.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
Exactly.
Two good gainers. And like I said, when we're 50% invested, we're not gonna keep up with a 2.4% gain for the Nasdaq. However, we'll take the market's cue here, and if it tells us to put more money to work, we should find setups to do that. So kind of frustrating on a big up day when you're holding a fairly healthy cash position, but not much has changed. We got some economic data this morning for the first estimate to first quarter gross domestic product came in way below expectations. So the slowdown appears to be happening. It came in at 1.1%. The estimate was for 2% growth. And then there was an inflation component inside the GDP report that actually came in hotter than expected. But hey, the market is not paying attention to that now. It's was worried about an earnings recession and maybe weak results, and it's getting pretty good results from Microsoft and Meta. Haven't seen Amazon yet after the close, but we have Apple next week. Yeah.
Well, so why do we usually save this to the end? But look at this, Amazon up 10%. It is forming a bottoming base, although we typically like it when there's a little bit more proven trading action above the 200-day line, but we're seeing a strong initial reaction to the report. Doesn't mean that it's going to carry over into the trading day tomorrow. And even if it opens up 10%, doesn't mean that it's going to close up 10%. But encouraging to see this initial reaction, and maybe we do see more fuel to the rally's fire because of this.
Absolutely, and it was a nice move above the 200-day moving average today. Volume expanded, and it looks like volume could be heavy in after hours too. So here's this big parade of big tech earnings reports that looking pretty good so far.
We will take it. Okay, we didn't even look at the S&P, the Dow, or the Russell. We'll just quickly go there. So a strong move today for the S&P 500 as well. It could also soon test that mid-April peak if the strength continues. And then for the Dow, it was trading around 34,000 before it backed off. Now getting back to that level, Ken.
But just looking at the volumes, if I could interrupt real quick on the just on the S&P 500, when you see the 2 days in a row of kind of higher volume decline yesterday and the decline the day before, and you see the volume so far, it's probably going to go up a little bit higher, but it does look like it's going to be lower volume on the NYSE. At least that's what preliminary data is showing. So again, not a whole lot of conviction behind the buying today, but you did see some explosive gainers, including Meta.
Yes, important to note that volume action as well. Let's also take a look underneath the surface just to show the difference here. Here's the QQEW ETF. This is the equal weighted. So it was up about 1.6, 1.7%, whereas QQQ was up 2.7%. So definitely that concentration there in what's fueling the gains here. And we also want to take a look at NAIL. This is the home builder ETF, a leveraged version. So up nicely today after a shakeout of its own on Wednesday. So these builder stocks are overall continuing to look pretty good. Just some shakeouts along the way, Ken.
Well, we have Meritage Homes on leaderboard, and to just take a look at that real quick because it was down sharply and had a nice upside reversal. So we held tight with our our position here and didn't get shaken out. So still liking the action in the home builders, and again, I got a building sector stock that we'll talk about in just a little bit, but a lot of building sector earnings reports coming out next week as well.
All right, well, let's go to Mastercard and its earnings reaction. An upside reversal here with it getting above the 21-day line after finding support at the 50-day and reattempting a breakout above a double bottom base. The numbers weren't all too large, but the street liked the report enough to send the stock almost 2% higher.
Yeah, Mastercard's a big company. Still actually delivering pretty good top line growth. It's got a huge market cap, and they really just started, saying what American Express said last week, that travel spending remains very strong. Mastercard said the same thing. Their cross border volume, just people traveling and using their cards, was up 35%. American Express last week said travel and entertainment spending was up 39%. Visa yesterday, I believe, talked about so there's not a recession among these card companies. People saying the consumer's still holding up well here. So back to the daily chart for Mastercard. I mean, it looks like it's right in a buy area right here. Nice reversal higher off the 50-day moving average. There was good volume behind the new move today as a result of earnings, and I think that 369.15 pivot is still actionable. So stock's only about 4 or 5 points above that. So still looks pretty strong here. High quality kind of blue chip company.
Great. And next on our list, we have a BYD, not the Chinese automaker, but Boyd Gaming. And it was up some 2% today. So staging a breakout this week and recently reported earnings with some pretty strong numbers.
Yeah, relative strength line poking into new high ground. It's got a very strong relative strength rating. Look at the blue volume spikes here on the weekly chart. You can see them this week and last week. So it's still in a buy zone here. A lot of stocks in the leisure gaming equipment group. You can see it ranks very high in our industry group rankings, but it was Churchill Downs which really, helped move a lot of stocks in this group. CHDN had a really nice earnings report.
Mhm.
So, Boyd Gaming. You don't. Churchill Downs is known for their horse racing, but they also have gaming entertainment. Boyd operates 28 properties across the U.S. They got a big presence in Vegas. Also have some locations in the Midwest and the South. So, again, not growing like gangbusters here. You've got annual earnings estimates that are a little slack, but stock in a good technical setup and a good industry group. So I think this one looks interesting as well.
All right. And last but not least, IBP. This is installed building products. We talked about the home builder area, that theme, seeing some interesting action this week, and the stock right in there with it. A recent breakout, it kind of squatted on that breakout day on 420. Pulled back below the buy point, which is normal for a good number of breakout stocks, and it's now retesting that entry.
Yeah, and they report earnings next week. A couple of big movers in this group today on earnings. A company called EMCOR, EME. We could take a look at that chart real quick and see a really explosive earnings move, and also ROL, Rollins, in the same industry group, also made a nice earnings move today. So, how does that bode? Does that bode well for IBP next week? It could, and it's in a good setup here, and showing some signs of accumulation. You've got a pretty good record of top line and bottom line growth in recent quarters. Again, estimates a little bit slack, but like the technicals here, and BLDR, another builder reporting earnings next week. So it's going to be pretty busy in this in the building sector. And there's BLD, another interesting setup here.
All right. And because it is a big earnings weekend, a big earnings night, we did check in on Amazon. That's not up quite as strong, but still up about 7% as the initial reactions sort of pour in here. But let's also take a look at a couple of other names with earnings out tonight. Look at this Cloudflare enterprise software. Wow. Not good here, down 24% late. Let's also take a look at Snap earnings out. This was down 22%. Let's look at Pinterest, down 7%. AYX, this is another one that reported tonight. Looking weak heading into the report, but down almost
this is a lot of big decliners here. Jeez, relentless.
Ken, your thoughts?
Well, I think I'm going to focus on Amazon earnings, and which is up nicely, and I'm going to keep thinking about a great report from Meta today, and also nice earnings from Microsoft yesterday. All these other big decliners, man, that's kind of not good price action. But I mean, there was a lot of selling in the market today. That's what was crazy, just to see the big percentage gains. Enterprise software group late in the session was down 0.5%, so really not participating much.
Yeah, IGB really lagging, and it's got a big Microsoft weighting in there. So
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is it for today. We will be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, and we're going to be joined by Joe Fahmy of Zor Capital. It'll be great to have him make his return for the show. It all but seals a rally day into effect.
I was going to say, yeah, he seems to be the timing when he comes on the show is always impeccable.
Yes. So we'll have to see if Amazon can fuel an extension of the gains that we saw today from Meta and earlier this week from Microsoft, or if stocks like Cloudflare will drag us down. I'm sure Joe's got some really great insights about the broad market groups that he's looking at and stocks of interest. So that's happening tomorrow morning on IBD Live, investors.com/IBD Live for all the details on that. We'll see you there. And we also have Barron's Live. Scott St. Clair and I at noon Eastern are going to be over at barrons.com/live going over 3 historical market precedents and the lessons we can learn from these monster movers to really help us focus in on what we need to see from the winners of today. So that's coming up at noon Eastern, barrons.com/live for the details on that. We'll see you then. And we'll also see you right back here tomorrow at the close to wrap up the week.